When it comes to planning a retreat, there's ways to get it to go from average to incredibly transformative. Welcome to Retreat Boss, where we speak about inspired travel for fun, transformation, and profit. Guest experts will give you their tips and tricks on creating the most impactful retreats, both for you and your clients. Whether you want a meditative getaway, a wellness trip, or a business escapade, we provide you with the best advice in organizing and hosting a tremendous event. Join Catherine Contos as she talks with fellow experts about creating exclusive and successful retreats. Dive deep into the most unique activities, the best destinations to visit, and the most uplifting trips out there that you can discover. Here is your host, Catherine Contos. Today on Retreat Boss, we have another interesting guest. Her name is Beáta Alföldi, and she is an international retreat leader, medicine woman, workshop facilitator, author, shamanic practitioner, sound healer, ceremonial leader, seer, and keynote speaker. Oof, that was a mouthful. With a gift for assisting individuals through deep transformation. She also created the Integral Women program for the Awareness Institute in Sydney. Welcome, Beáta. So happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Catherine. It's awesome to be here.
You do so much greatness across your entire career. You have an incredible life. I see you. I could feel your energy. It's so peaceful. Tell me, what got you started on all this?
Oh my goodness. That's a very long story. I began as a professional dancer and singer. I traveled the world. I was in London's West End. I traveled all over the world singing and dancing. And then I ended up in the height of my career actually feeling a little bit despondent. My spiritual path kept on deepening. So around at the age of 31, 32, I decided to take a little bit of a break and realized that yoga at that point was a good path for me because it combined a lot of physical practices as well as spiritual and esoteric truths. So I ended up opening up my own school and practice in Australia where I was teaching, at least 35 yoga classes a week. And then around 2007, I met a woman in one of my classes and she said, you would really, really love shamanism. And there is a new opening for this beautiful school that was opening in Australia called the Earth Institute, sorry. It has now changed to another name. But at the time, I met two teachers there, went through an accredited shamanic practitioner training with energetic healing as well as eco-psychology. And at that time, then I ended up going into the jungle after I finished my training of Peru and as well as the Andes, and started working very closely with some indigenous elders there as well as plant medicines, traveled to Mexico, traveled all over the world. And that was probably my biggest initiation. So I've been on this path facilitating transformational retreats for the last 14 years. I've also had an incredibly full life, a very rich life with some very, very deep challenges that I've overcome. And I always say to people, we cannot facilitate that which we have not transformed ourselves. So through the challenges, through all the practices and the knowledge that I've received not only from my teachers as well as from life, but also from the plant medicines, I now curate programs for men and women that are really focused on empowering an individual and transforming all of those stories that keep all of us stuck in very small ways of being in life.
That sounds like something many people need today, right?
Absolutely. I think what this current situation that we've got going on in the world, this COVID situation is teaching us is how disconnected people are from themselves, how many people live in fear, and how many people don't trust their own bodies. So I call that this time a time of revealing and of great awakening, revealing ourselves to ourselves, and also awakening a lot of people up to their higher purpose and a greater potential. And I think more than ever now, our spiritual and embodied practices are becoming, if not, they're not already for the viewers, primarily very, very important.
We are being tested, that's for sure. And, a
That's
lot of people are forgetting about those learnings, which is sad. Everything that was taught to us throughout this past year and a half. But the ones that do will definitely benefit from this awakening. For people that don't know your practice, can you please explain what is a shamanic practice? When someone comes to you, what is it that they are going to get and discover through doing this with you?
Well, I've just finished facilitating a beautiful retreat here in Cancun. I would say the biggest takeaway that I received as feedback was a few things. One of them was so many people said that they'd returned to themselves, they'd found themselves again after a period of a long time, that they rediscovered a deep love for themselves and reconnected with the feeling of being alive and passionate about what is opening up in their lives, and realizing that we are all co-creating in every step of the way. So stepping out of all the victim stories, the I didn't create this stories, and stepping into that space, well, if I'm a powerful co-creator and I look around my life, what am I actually creating, and how can I take responsibility and then an embodied action every day so that I can make sure that I continue to be aligned with my values and my highest truth.
Mm. And what do you do as a practitioner? What is it that they should expect from you?
Oh my
If
gosh.
you were to explain this practice for people that have no idea, they maybe heard about it, but really have not, you know, explored it. When they, what do you offer to them to create what you just described?
I offer people various tools and practices, a lot of shamanic work. So I do sound journeys. I'm a healer as well. So I work with the drum. I work with totem animals, womb wisdom work, psychological processes and practices, a lot of embodied work. And of course, I work with the plant medicine of Wachuma, which is San Pedro, not in all of my retreats, but in some of my retreats, I find that plant medicine and working with these very high states of consciousness in the process of ceremonies, in the context of a ceremony, really allows people to just get away from our addiction to the mind and move into the wisdom of our hearts and into our bodies. And I always say to people, I'm not teaching anything. I'm supporting people to remember who they are. And I think that's really, really important in an age where everyone gives their power away to gurus and this person and this person. Actually, we have all the answers within. We sometimes just need someone to open that door and go, hey, I see you. Here's the door. Are you willing to step through? And support that person in that process, you know?
And tell me if you agree. Do you believe that retreats will become something that we haven't seen before, like after COVID? With everything, all this awakening, I feel like people will feel a little lost, like because of all these discoveries. How do you see the retreat business going, in the next couple of years?
Well, I think next year is still going to be for just those brave souls that are really willing to put themselves out there, and a lot of people are ready. I feel that perhaps by the end of next year and the beginning of the year after, we're going to see, and I agree with you, Catherine, I think we're going to see a large increase in people that are wanting to do conscious travel. And what I mean by that is going to these magnificent destinations that perhaps they've always wanted to see, but rather than just going to go shopping, and we all love shopping, we're women, right?
Yes.
But going with a purpose where they're going to meet like-minded people, because connection is going to become increasingly important. travel to destinations that inspires them, but also to work on themselves, because as we all know, emotional intelligence is paramount in how successful someone is in their personal life, in their intimate relationships, as well as the careers that we all forge for ourselves.
Do you do any preparation with your clients before they come to the retreat? Is there like a program in place for before and after, or is it someone randomly will like click online or get in touch with you and say, I want to come to one of your retreats?
If I don't know an individual, I'll usually make sure that I connect in with that individual and they know exactly what's involved in the retreat process,
Okay.
in the process of the work. I also have very strong preparation practices on my retreats, as well as integration practices on my retreats. And what do I mean by integration? Making real in your everyday life, how can we integrate everything that we've learned so it becomes a path forward for you that's not just, oh, I had an amazing experience, but then what did that experience teach you and how can you implement those teachings into your life so that you can affect your family, you can affect your community and the world at large if you so choose. So I also have intuitive mentoring sessions as well as soul purpose sessions for people that would like to take this work with me further.
Do you find people want to become practitioners after they experience it as well?
Yes, and I do have an internationally accredited shamanic practitioner program, one that I'm offering online for my Australian community, because I don't know if you know this, but they cannot travel there. They've had the longest lockdowns in the world. So I'm offering it to my Australian community online. Obviously, I grew up there. But for the rest of the world, I'm about to do a practitioner training here in Cancun, which is basically full, apart from maybe one spot. And then next year in Portugal and France and a few other places. So yes, people are always asking me to teach them the tools of the trade. So I attract a lot of people that are already practitioners, whether they're psychologists, whether they're doctors, whether they're EFT practitioners, Reiki masters. A lot of people are wanting to reconnect with the wisdom of nature, because ultimately we are not separate from nature. We are a part of nature. We've just forgotten that. That's why we have so many problems with our planet right now and with the earth.
Do you find that somebody has to have something in them to do what you do, like a special quality or an energy or some kind of insight into stuff that most people can't see?
I feel that most of us have the capacity to see beyond what we've been taught at school. We've just forgotten. And what I facilitate in this work is processes for people to remember, whether they're kinesthetic, feeling, whether they're clairvisual, so they can see, whether they have highly developed olfactory senses, smell, touch. We have all got gifts. We take in 2 million bits of information per second and we chunk it down to 7 bytes per second, because that's all we can take in. So when you think about that, all of us have a beautiful capacity to be able to engage with the world of the intangible. So once again, I support people in that remembering. No, you only have to have a willingness to see through the eyes of your heart, and that's all.
Is there anything you want me to speak about that I haven't asked you yet?
No, let's
No?
just go with it, Catherine.
Okay.
I think we're doing great.
Okay, great. Okay, so do you feel like once they've explored that part of them, okay, where their eyes have been opened to something that was there, but it was just not seen by them, does their perspective change on how they live, on how they view the world, they view other people, they view behaviors, everything? Like, what changes in them and how do they go on afterwards knowing what they know now?
Great question. One of the things that people share with me is that their connection to the natural world becomes a lot stronger. So they don't just look at seemingly inanimate objects like trees or rocks or flowers or plants in the same way ever again. They start realizing that everything is connected, everything influences something else, whether it's a tree or a rock, that everything has a consciousness and that everything is alive. So the awareness around the sensitivity to animals, for instance, to other human beings, and how people process information, how we receive information, and then how we give information and share, should I say, information, becomes a lot more of this exquisite space where we realize that everything that we think, everything that we speak, everything that we do in action has an effect on something else. Because shamanism really is a path of direct revelation. And what I mean by that is that nobody can say to you or to me or to anybody that that is not your truth. If your truth speaks to you through your connection with a tree or an animal or with the earth or with the sky, with the rain, whatever it is, whatever you receive in that moment then becomes your embodied truth, as long as it doesn't come from the mind, as long as it becomes a felt sense knowing through the body.
So it's all about energy. Am I correct in saying that?
Everything is about energy, and shamanism is definitely that path. It is a path where it doesn't matter what religious practice you have. All religions are welcome in this path. Shamanism is not a religious path. It's more of a spiritual, earth-centered practice. It's a way of being and relating in life. That's what I think it's the best way to describe it.
How does the practice of Reiki, for example, complement, or does it work with what you do, or is it something completely different?
Well, Reiki works with energy. I haven't trained in Reiki, so I don't know too much about Reiki. I know they use a lot of symbols and they work with hands and chakras and things like that. Shamanism is more of an earth-based practice. So whilst there is healing involved in it, we're working more with earth energies rather than, I guess, esoteric energies, even though I would say that there is a lot of overlapping principles here.
Okay. Yeah, because because it is energy healing as well. So I was wondering if sometimes some practitioners will use Reiki as well, into their practice. They do?
100%. 100%. People, in fact, we have some Reiki practitioners that are coming onto this upcoming retreat, and they just want to bring in different practices that will support them in their already developed work, in their big client base, and they're looking at different ways of engaging with the natural world to support their practice that's already beautiful. I mean, Reiki is a beautiful practice, and so no, I don't feel that any energy practice, has to compete with any other energy practice. I feel that when they're worked well together, they actually work very well with each other in fostering authentic transformation. Who doesn't need more tools in their toolkit?
Absolutely. Absolutely. How many retreats have you done? It sounds like you've done
Oh God.
maybe don't even know the number.
Well, oh gosh, I've been working in this space since 2007. I think, I don't know how many retreats, but I've worked with thousands of people all over the world. Thousands.
And what's next? What are you doing next? What's
I'm
the next
writing a
retreat?
book.
You're writing a book?
I'm writing a book on the death of my son 10 years ago, because that was my biggest wake-up call, and that really was my initiation to continue to foster and carve out this path. So that's the book that I'm writing now, and there will be practices in there for people that are very, very practical, because of course I'm talking about grief, which we've all gone through in our lives.
Yes.
And it's an invitation and an offering for people to look at grief as a natural part of life, and to look at death as a natural part of life, but then bringing these practices and these teachings of what supported me in that process to heal, and to walk with grief now rather than to be debilitated by it for the rest of my life, to see it as a path where I've been able to transform this deep pain into gifts of gold. So what I'm really interested in now is supporting others that have had really, really challenging journeys and being able to use practices, earth-centered practices, to transform the story so that it becomes a great gift for themselves in their life and also for their communities. So that's what I'm doing as part of my project over the next year. My next retreat is here in Cancun, which is my accredited shamanic practitioner training. And then I've got retreats coming up in New York. I've got retreats in Poland. I'm moving to Portugal in May. I'm setting up a retreat center in the next 5 years. So I'm a busy lady. Let's not use the word busy. Let's just say I'm full and I love being creative. I love it.
I see it does give you energy as well. Some people just love being full like that. This
Yeah.
is when you're doing what you love, you might be a little tired, but you're loving that tired. It's a good kind of tired. It's a good type of fatigue, it's, we have something familiar, or in common actually, because I did too write a book after my cancer diagnosis and my survival, because I did have to come into this acceptance of death during my journey while I was going through that. And when I was, it propelled me to a different level in life where it did, I say cancer did give me many, many, many gifts. And my book did help and does help other people going through something like this, because it gives a different perspective. And I know your book will do the same, because there's a lot of people that are suffering from a tremendous loss in their life, and it shouldn't suffocate them. I'm grateful to you for writing something like that. Do you have a name for this book that will be forthcoming or not yet?
Yes, it's called Back from the Edge of the Unthinkable.
Okay, so everybody look out for it when it does come out. When are you expecting it to launch?
Wow. Well, I'm hoping, let's just say it's a 2-year project.
Okay.
I'm hoping by the end of next year, but because I'm so busy and I'm in the middle of a move as well, international move of relocating, I really don't want to put too much pressure on myself. I'm hoping the end of next year, but definitely it's within the next 2 years. And I want to say thank you as well, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
For turning your story of cancer into a story of well-being and a path of finding your way through this, but also supporting other people as well. Because I think when anyone gets a diagnosis like that, you really have to face the inevitable, which is that we are going to all die one day. But also, where can we bring balance back into our lives? Which means that even though you're obviously a lady who is very full with her work and you love your work as well, I think it's important that we understand what balance is as well and know what rest is. And thank goodness I'm very good at doing nothing as well.
The professional.
Oh yeah, I love sitting on the beach and just relaxing when I need to as well, when I feel depleted.
It's so
well
important.
done.
And when you do that, you're so much more creative and so much more productive in anything else that you do when you are busy. So, and
Totally.
It's underestimated. Rest is underestimated.
Rest is muy important, because if we are not filling up our cups first as men and women, it's like the analogy of the face mask on the plane. If there's anything happening, you've got to put the face mask on you first before you put it on your child. It's the same thing with our lives. If we are not well, and as you discovered, when all of us go through any illness, we're always so grateful when we feel better again, but then we forget, without our health, we have nothing. Health is true wealth.
Absolutely.
So, this is balance. This is where we need to always be in balance.
Yes, I agree with you. And everybody should try to keep within that balance as much as they can without stressing themselves out, because I find sometimes people stress themselves out just to keep that balance, and it's not that way. Sometimes your life pulls you a little bit this way, it pulls a little that way, but as long as you're sort of flowing like this, and creating that alignment. thank you so much for being here today. I really enjoyed this conversation and learning more about what you do, about your practice. Hopefully, we'll get to meet each other soon when I will come to Mexico, because it's definite. And we could discuss a little more. So I really appreciate your input on this and on retreats. I know it'll bring great value to my listeners.
Thank you so much for having me, Catherine. You are a wonderful, wonderful being. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Retreat Boss podcast. When it comes to achieving wellness and transformation, nothing is more effective and profound than a well-orchestrated retreat. Achieve huge revenue growth, one trip at a time. Want to learn more on expanding your business with retreats? Visit retreatboss.com, when profitable retreats are made easy. Be sure to leave a rating and subscribe to the show at retreatboss.com/podcast. Until next time, take care.